भ्यः सर्वेभ्यः यतिवर्येभ्यः मदीयान् नमो वाक्यान् निवेद्य अन्येभ्यश्च पंडितवर्येभ्यः नमांसि उक्त्वा साक्षादेव प्रविशामि. So I was basically asked to talk on the benefits that one gains by having discussion on these Janma, Marana and so on. This is the outline. I would just like to quickly take you through what was deliberated, and then I will jump into what has been assigned to me. I will start with what is Prasthanatraya, of course everyone knows. Then I will quickly recap what exactly we mean in our Shastras, birth, death, etc. There are basically 4 parts, as you can see. One is introduction, the other is question and answer, the third will be the benefit section. And why should we take Janma to be an outcome of karma? Why should we take Janma as an outcome of karma? So this is then Kovataraha Svechaya Sthula Sharira Grahanam. So this is what in short that we have been thinking of, right? Now what is the basis for all this? All the basis is Upanishads only. In fact, it was beautifully discussed yesterday by Mani Shastri ji. Savayam Purusho Jajamana Shariramapi Sampadyamana Papmabhisagga Srijyate Savutkraman Mriyamanaha. So this is the basis for making this statement. Now one can ask this question, why has this been taken up in this? This is one kind of question that we need to understand. Is it something which is purely, see in fact if we talk of Nachiketa, was he asking this question out of only curiosity, or is it something which is also there? Even if we take curiosity as the basis for this question, which most of us do have, and of course the entire enterprise of this medicine is engaging in this question. This enterprise, why are they doing? Of course, there are so many things in this world which are done out of curiosity, and the prayojana can be jijnasa nivritti. That is fine. We have no problem with that. Incidentally, we also see another kind of prayojana. If it is purely out of curiosity, then one can have several kinds of answers to the question. So even in science, we have several kinds of theories, explanations, and some of them are favored and some of them are not favored. Which is more favored is something which we need to see, and why is it favored? So there are various things which we have to look into. And when there is going to be some advantage beyond this, so then that particular thing will be chosen. So here we have been saying Savutkraman Mriyamanaha, so this forms the basis. And we also have this Plavahyete Adridhayajna Rupaha Ashtadashoktam Avanayeshu Karma. So this forms the basis. Now I will take you, so this Ishtapurtam and so on, there are so many Shrutis. Some intriguing questions that arise in this connection is, we say that Janma is a samsarga, and if it is samsarga, then why is this samsarga happening? Then the other question is, kena sharirena ayam samsargaha bhavati? Kutra samsargaha bhavati? Kada samsargaha bhavati? Koyam samsarga niyamakaha? So these are basically the basic questions that we can think of. And in order to get answer to this, it has been clearly stated. There is only one way. Parikshalokan karmachitan. Parikshalokan karmachitan, that itself implies that there is something called karma. So karmachitan is what is stated. Parikshya is something which is close examination. This close examination is essential for gaining knowledge in any discipline, and this is something which is beyond our perception, and therefore this is all the more intriguing. Parikshe lokan karmachitan, and of course it is saying Brahmano nirvedamayat nastekritah kritena tadvijnanartham sa gurumevabhigachet samitpanim. So here the other aspect is also something which is important. So this examination is something which can be done independently, but it can also be done with the guidance of someone. If we do independently, then there is a problem of falling somewhere into a trap where we may not be able to get suitable answer, and thereby will be landing into more confused state. And therefore it has been stated, sa gurumevabhigachet samitpanihi shrotriyam brahmanishtham. And the attitude with which one has to go has also been stated there. So these are important questions, and there is a certain way in which one can get answer to these questions, and therefore these have been discussed in Upanishads, and the method have also been stated there. Now the answers that are provided are simple. Kena hetuna samsargaha karma phala bhogaya ayam samsargaha. So there is a lot of advantage in taking this position. So that's what I wanted to highlight. Kena hetuna ayam samsargaha. In fact, there is an interesting sutra which is there in the second sutra in the Nyaya Darshana. Dukkha janma pravritti dosha mithyajnananam uttarottarāpāye tadanantarāpāyād apavargaha. Right? So there, what is the implication? The implication is something which is known, but it has been stated in the form of a sutra. Every individual knows that once you have this sharira, you have to necessarily undergo certain afflictions. This is unavoidable, irrespective of the kind of knowledge that the person possesses, the resources that this person possesses, the power that this person possesses. So janma is invariably connected with dukkha. And this janma, of course, is also invariably the other side connected with the karma. Now, this is something which is well known for us. So here the implication is karma phala bhogaya ayam samsargaha. If you want to avoid dukkha, then you have to avoid this janma, and if you have to avoid this janma, you have to avoid this karma phala. This is the implication. So therefore, if one understands this, then there is a byproduct that we get out of this. The byproduct is stated in the Upanishads. Why should we take this? That is something which we have to look into a little later. So why not take the other position that everything happens on its own? There is a natural evolution that happens, and so on and so forth. That doesn't seem to be appealing to thinking minds. Therefore they felt karma phala bhogaya ayam samsargaha. This is what they say. And what kind of sharira that you will take, etc. Karma phalayatam. In fact, it was stated even by the previous speaker. Karma phalayatam. So depending upon the kind of karma that you have performed, you will be assigned a particular sharira. This is also something which has been stated. Now this seems to be providing some sort of an answer. After all, we need some answer to the intriguing questions that we have in our mind, and this seems to be providing one kind of an answer. The advantage here is there is a dharma bhiruta, adharma bhiruta. Okay? If I don't do this, then I may get into this. So if we just assume that it is true, then we land into this kind of a situation. How about non-believers and rationalists? So they may not agree to this, right? They may not agree to this. So then how do we sort of go and approach this problem? Herein we have an interesting chart where we find the kind of multiplicity that we see here. So assuming a human being, it has been stated. So you just take this Janma as Sharira Samsarga, and what kind of a thing can be there? So it can be Deva Yoni, it can be Naraka Yoni, it can be anywhere, right? So any form of Sharira is Sharira. So you just say, broadly you divide into Sugati and Durgati. So once you divide this, then you can further say, so Sugati, Deva, Manushya, Durgati you can think of Tirjak, Narak, and so on and so forth. Then of course you can have Puman, Itaraha, Gauhu, Itaraha. So there are various things that you can think of. Then if you go further, so this can be based on Varna, Kula, Deha, Indriya, Manaha. So many of you know this, right? So this kind of a thing that we have. Now the question that arises is this something which is a natural selection that happens? So this is the question that we would like to pose to us. So evolutionary biologists, they feel that this is something which happens naturally. So it need not necessarily be associated with any kind of agent who actually brings in this to you, right? So do we necessarily think of an agent who has to act and then who has to decide on this, or is it something which naturally happens? So there are a lot of discussions which have gone even in the scientific field, and they feel that so it is not easy for us to explain this as a natural evolution that has happened. And in this connection, I would say that what has been stated here seems to make a lot of sense to even those scientists who have seriously contemplated on these issues. So here, consider a simple case where, so one can today, a lot of experiments are being conducted to trace and trace back the characteristic of a person to the gene that which he is connected with. Now in the case of identical twins that are being born, so how do we explain this? The characteristics are absolutely different, the behavior is absolutely different, the kind of accomplishment that they do are absolutely different, and therefore one feels compelled for various reasons that one has to accept certain thing which is not comprehensible to us in the domain of science. Okay? So this astrology of course will miserably fail. So this because it is something which has to do with the same thing, right? So I mean when I say astrology, I do not mean this explanation based on time and position of the planets alone. Okay. So there are certain other factors which have to be figured into, and therefore so there is a compelling evidence even among those who need not necessarily go by what the scriptures say to think of something else, and this something else we feel that it could be the explanation that is offered, and that is quite sensible too. Now what are the benefits? So I will just explain this with the help of a couple of verses from Bhagavad Pada himself. Think a bit. So here we have the sources of pain are essentially two things. So this Bhagavad Pada beautifully brings out in his Shatashloki. Yah kaschit saukhya hetoho trijagati yatate naiva dukkhasya hetoho dehe hanta tadutha svavishaya mamata cheti dukkhaspade dve janan rogabhighatadyanubhavati yato nitya dehatma buddhihi. You can either say anitya dehatma buddhihi or nitya dehatma buddhihi. Both ways is fine. Bharya putrarthanashe vipadamatha parameti na arati nashe. Now you see, if we assume that this Atman is something which is different from the Sharira and it is essentially the samsarga that happens. So this is essentially the outcome, right? We have been talking about. Now there is enough reason for us to understand that any accomplishment that has been done by us need not necessarily be developing a certain superiority complex in you or arrogance in you. We will be able to shut it away. And any kind of inferiority complex that you develop is also, suppose somebody says, look at his nose. Okay, you need not bother, right? So this need not be there. And today the entire industry that we see here is to essentially make the looks better, change the looks and so on and so forth, whether it is footwear industry, whether it is cosmetic industry, whether it is this industry, that industry. So, all these industries only create a huge problem in the society, and this particular thought that we have here is something which is of great significance in dropping this. This is one of the most important benefits. This ahanta and mamata, so these are things which can be easily dropped. Now, these are the two sources, as has been beautifully stated. If we drop, then why are we not able to drop? Why are we not able to drop? There, Bhagavad Pada says, this is Maudhya Samskara Yoga. Okay? So, there are like various other yogas, okay, Raja Yoga. So, he uses this phrase, Maudhya Samskara Yogat. See. So, see, in fact, there is a nice verse. Swambalam Rodamanam Chiratara Samayam Shanti Manetu Magre Draksham Kharjura Mamram Sukadala Mathava Yojayat Yambikasya Tadvat Chetoti Mudham Bahujanana Bhavat Maudhya Samskara Yogat Bodhopayair Anekaihi Avasham Upanishat Bodhayamasa Samyak. He says, see. So, that is what the Upanishad does for us. So, here there is a huge source of relief that we are able to get, and like a mother it is trying to present to us in various ways. So, this is what actually causes. So, once we are clear about this whole phenomenon, so the point I am trying to make is, so this is a short term association that we have got with this body, that is all. That is all essentially it amounts to, right? I am different and a short term association that I have, why should I bother? So, this is the kind of thing that he is trying to hint here. I will not elaborate on this. This greatly helps us in eliminating various sources of pain. Now, with simile we will be able to explain certain things so beautifully, and that is what is, in fact, he was also mentioning the previous speaker, Sripada Bhattji. So, this Prasthanatraya has various kinds of Prakarana Granthas has several similes, and here one more verse where Bhagavad Pada says how you can understand this. So, the Sharira is like guest house, and we are essentially guests staying in the guest house. So, I am not really bothered about what happens in Manasa Bhavana, right? So, we are not worried. So, that is how we need to understand even with respect to the Sharira. That is all he is trying to say. So, once we understand what is this birth and death, it is essentially a certain point of contact which has been established, which is not in our hands. So, this firmly rooted understanding should be there, and thereby we will be able to eliminate. That is what he is saying. He advises us, Tishthan Gehe Griheshopi, okay. Atithiriva nijam dhamagantum chikirshuhu dehastham dukha saukhyam nabhajati sahasa nirmamatva bhimanaha. If you have built your house, then you may have mamatva. If you stay in Manasa Bhavana, you don't have this, right? So, that is all it is. So, you just understand that this is just like this only, okay. Ayatrayasyatidam jaladapatalavat yatriyasyatyavashyam dehahadyam sarvamevam pravidita vishayaha yascha tishthatya yatnaha. So, the point is tishthan gehe, you need not quit. Those who are in Grihasthashrama, they need not necessarily feel that we are not eligible. Even as you are, you can still feel so. See, Tishthan gehe griheshopi. So, that is the point that he is trying to. The entire vichara, as I was thinking, ultimately boils down to generate a certain kind of feeling that is essential for you to live a better life here. So, this is something, so the experiences of pleasure and pain that we have are all transient. For that, he is just giving the example, Jalada Patalavat, just like a cloud which is passing. Jalada Patalavat, okay. Moreover, they are for the body, right? So once you make this distinction, and we need to just live as we live in a guest house, so without too much of lamenting. Okay? So this is something which is extremely important. See, this is a major problem that we have. Okay? So lamenting to some extent is also okay, but permanently lamenting is not going to help. Okay? So in fact, this has been so beautifully stated elsewhere. Even the possession that we have, see, even the possession that we have, avashyam yataraha chiratara mushitvapi vishayaha viyoge ko bhedaha त्यजति न जनो यत् स्वयं अमून व्रजंत स्वातंत्र्यात् अतुल परितापाय मनसः स्वयं त्यक्ता ह्येते शमसुखम अनंतं विदधति. Right? So this understanding naturally emerges. Avashyam yataraha chiratara mushitvapi. Even if you have your own possession, forget about this guest house, even the original possession he is talking. Okay? Viyoge ko bhedaha त्यजति न जनो यत् स्वयं अमून. He is not able to share. Share it. Vrajanta swatantriyat, on their own if they go, okay, then you will be suffering. If you yourself leave it willingly with understanding, shama sukham anantam vidadhati, it leaves you to that. That is the benefit. That is the benefit of the whole analysis. Okay. I will just give you one more thing. Today there is some interesting thing that is being studied by various people. Even in Chandogya we have this experiment to be conducted by the student which the Acharya directs, to make him understand that it is one thing which has got these multiple forms, right? So there the multiple forms include various things, and this Atman, there is only one Atman which gets tagged to various multiple forms. And how one thing can become many things, I mean Negro, the Phalamahara, Bijam, Chindi, Bhindi, all that it is said. Now look at this our own Janma from the purely scientific viewpoint which is happening. So how did this come? So today this number is a huge number, 32 trillion, okay, 10 to the power of 13, okay. So that is how it is. This number, so it is said, so this estimate I will not get into that. Even if one were to count 10 cells per second, then it will take more than 10,000 years for you to count. Then how do you know? We know through Agama Pramana. No, what I am trying to convey here is, it has been done by Pratyaksha and inference in some form, but then most of us are just believing that it has been given to us. See, we have Swami Atmapriyananda here, who was a physicist at one point of time. But then today we talk about this black hole, who knows? Agama Pramana. We are all on spinning earth. Do you know? How do you know? It is only Agama Pramana given to us. Most of us, I am just saying. So one may go back, but then there are many things which we speculate. This is how it has to be. It cannot be perceived. It has to be based on inference, and certain other factors may actually change it also. Coming back to this issue, so when we ask this question, how do you know that there is something? Of course there is nothing. It is only through Agama Pramana. And this has been handed over to us. So asya mahato vrikshasya यो मूले अभ्याहन्यात् जीवन स्रवेत् यो मध्ये अभ्याहन्यात् जीवन स्रवेत् यो अग्रे अभ्याहन्यात्. Here, I mean, when I studied, I didn't notice it carefully. When I looked into now, I noticed this was a bit strange to me. Here Bhagavad Pada says in his commentary that Bauddhakanadam achetanaha sthavaraha ityetat asaramiti darshitam bhavati. Okay, I didn't know how they took this position that plants are achetanas, this Bauddha Kanadaha. This is a reference that he is trying to make. Anyway, so the mantra, this 11th thing in Chandogya ends with Jiva Petam Bhava Kiledam Mriyate na Jivom Mriyate. Of course, yesterday all this was discussed. Tauha yado jatuh karmahaiva tado jatuh athayat prashasag karmahaiva tat prashasag satuh punyo vai punyena karmana bhavati papah papena. I'll just tell you, once again I want to reiterate, once you impregnate this idea in the impressionable age of children, then this will pave a great way for them to be. This is one thing which we are really missing, that you have to necessarily face the effects of the ill deeds that you perform. If it is deeply ingrained, then I think this will help the society to function in a much, much, much better way. And that actually the whole basis lies here. See? So this adharmataha bhiruhu. So this has to, I make the point, impressionable age. See, that is very important. Okay. So if we miss this, then I think great loss will be there. So this is the last slide. No human being. This is another aspect which I want to bring in. So there one can take the position that, see, even the Nayayikas, see, there is a statement that one can make from the viewpoint of purely Nyaya also. They also are believing in this Janma, Marana, Karma and so on. But Advaitins have very special advantage of presenting Ekatma. They are Nanatmavadis. So this, the other benefits which I was talking about will be there even if you take this Nyaya position, other Astika position. Whereas Advaitins have this very, very special thing. What is this special thing? When I was thinking about anybody who has some faculty of thinking, okay, would never venture to do something which is likely to hurt him, right? Nobody, anybody who, okay, any Jiva Matra in fact. The moment one understands that it is the same self that exists, the conscious being that is dwells elsewhere too, the same being, please understand that, then he would never be unjust to anybody, right? Nobody wants to be unjust to himself, and therefore this actually has much greater advantage than other Astika Darshanas is what I wanted to try here, convey. Thus, starting to contemplate on these fundamental questions opens a very grand way to extend fraternity, love and affection, not necessarily to human beings and other living beings, but to the entire nature. See, that is the greatest advantage that we have in firmly grounding the person in the view of Advaita that has been presented here. And of course, this has been stated in Upanishads in many ways, that you cannot afford to miss this knowledge, and it is a great loss. Iha cheda vedit atha satyamasti nachediha vedin mahati vinashtihi. Of course, he was just saying there are various views, Kridartham, Srijasi, Prapancham, Akhilam. So these are all understood so well. And of course, my younger brother kind of a thing, Satisha, was yesterday quoting, see, Mrityor Vibhesh kim muda, Bhitam kim munchate yamaha. See, ultimately, Kuruyatnam ajanmani. Okay? This is true of the view taken by even the other philosophers. Another thing that I will just say is, another advantage is today there is a mad rush for luxury. Okay? Mad rush for luxury. And that creates enormous amount of problems environmentally. Okay? So due to, and we have completely thrown away, okay, so the care for nature from our view itself. And today there is universe is really worried about this problem. So once we have this distinction, after all, the Sharira, Why should I make it crave for more and more luxury? This is going to greatly help us, so in saving the environment also, and this vichara importance cannot be overstated. I must thank Swamiji. This Swamiji has taken a last word. I have seen so many people organizing various programs, but the kind of meticulousness with which he has done was amazing to me. See, when we send our abstract to we also organize conferences, right? To conferences, somebody will be there, I mean, he will just assemble the abstracts and then put some abstract. The organizer may not even know what has been written, what has come, what may not. So here, when I sent my abstract first, so this our friend Sridhar Hegde wrote to me saying that it was shown to Swamiji and Swamiji wants you to write another abstract. So this is going to be talked by someone else, and you want he wants you to talk on something else. So I mean, the meticulousness with which he has done, I am grateful to you, Swamiji. And this is, I would like to conclude with this verse: Shanta Mahanto Nivasanti Santaha Vasantaval Lokahitam Charantaha Tirnaswayam Bhima Bhavarnavam Janan Ahetunanyanapi Tarayantaha. So it is basically with this attitude the whole thing has been organized, and I was also immensely benefited as it gave me some opportunity to think on these issues deeply. Namaste.